I think it's just the amazing time to shine right now in the field of prosthetics and orthotics for not only our patients, but as well as our students, our current rising professionals and clinicians that are getting licensed and moving forward, board eligible and passing their exams. It is so bright.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and today I welcome Adrienne Hill. Adrienne is a certified prosthetist-orthotist and has a diverse background in physics, mathematics, and health administration. As a former area clinic manager, Adrienne gained extensive experience in orthotic and prosthetic solutions, clinical care, patient advocacy, and mentorship. Now as the program director of the Masters of Science in Prosthetic and Orthotics at Kennesaw State University, she is passionate about educating and inspiring the next generation of POP professionals. And I am really excited about her educating me on everything she knows. But first of all, Adrienne, thank you so much for taking the
Absolutely.
time.
Thank you so much, Mike, for having me today. This is very exciting.
I'm more excited. We had a little pre-conversation, and I probably learned more in the 5 minutes talking to you than I knew the whole time, and I've even more in prosthetics. So it's very interesting, and I can't wait to dig in. But we always start the podcast with a segment I call In Your Own Words. So I'd love the audience to learn more about you.
Okay. Well, as you said, I am a certified prosthetist-Orthotist. I am licensed here in the state of Georgia, but really my passion came from kind of my background. My grandfather was a bilateral above knee amputee. He wore little stubbies in the house, and then he put on Grandpa's magic legs and take me out to the movies and out to the park. And he was probably my caregiver with my aunt probably until I was about 9 years old. And then my dad was helping a lady change her tire in the rain. And another car came and sideswiped that car. My dad is a mechanic by training. And so he was like, oh, no problem. I can come out and help you. And unfortunately, after that accident, he did lose his leg below the knee. And so kind of prosthetics and orthotics has been around me my entire life. So I knew this is what I wanted to do, put people back together again. And so that's really where my passion came for pop.
So as you were growing up, you must have thought, hey, this is just kind of the way things are. You saw the people that had the prosthetics, and that led you to the passion you have now in creating and teaching others?
Oh, absolutely. One of the great things that happened was that my grandmothers and my dad's this allowed me to go to the back and tinker and make my dad's leg. And so ever since then, that was the passion that came. And so right now during Pop Month and then going forward, if there's any way that you can or, spread the word about prosthetics and orthotics, if it's a patient or like for me, my dad's prosthetist-orthotist allowed me to go to in the lab and actually he'd give me a little piece of plastic and I can go to the Troutman and try to shape my dad's leg. Or he had me an old leg knowing this now. I didn't know at the time, oh, well, it's time to put his cover on. And so he'd let me go to the machines and he'd slow it all the way down for me and make my dad's leg. It was nothing like it. And so when you can spark that interest in someone at the time, I think I was either 10 or 12 years old in the field, that's what matters. And so that is why I also wanted to come in and share a little bit about myself, about mentorship here on the podcast with you so that we could talk about all of those interesting things.
Well, one of the things I want to make sure everyone understands, and I'll let you explain, but POP, first of all, what it stands for, and then what POP month is all about. I think those are very two important things.
Absolutely. So this is Pop Month, and it's actually happening nationwide. So POPT is Prosthetics, Orthotics, and Pedorthics. So prosthetics, most of the people kind of understand what that is. That is someone is missing limb loss, limb difference, missing an arm, missing a leg, and we need to make a prosthesis to kind of give them that leg up, right? But orthotics, those could be different or orthoses or braces that go on your limb. And so think of maybe a child that maybe had cerebral palsy or scoliosis in your spine. These are braces that go around the limb that is still there to allow them to move a little faster or grow a little taller in their spine. And then pedorthics is the stuff that goes in your shoes, your foot orthoses that go in, the customized foot orthoses or an ankle brace, thinking about like a figure eight ankle brace for runners and jumpers. And so those allow you to move a little longer, jump a little higher, move a little faster. And so we're really the body's kind of anointing to make sure that they're back moving and moving better.
And as far as the month is concerned, this is going to be coming out in April, but the month itself is in March. Is it March every year?
That is the goal, is that it will be March every month. And so it really is, let's just call it pop year if you even want to. But yes, so
Yes.
currently right now, pop month is in the month of March. And then limb loss and limb difference is in the month of April. And that's when we celebrate. So we really call this kind of first quarter kind of this pop awareness. And so we want to keep it going from the month of March into the month of April.
I like the way you said it. Let's call it the year. I think that's
Absolutely.
important because, just because we celebrate something for a month doesn't mean it's not important all the time. And with your
Absolutely.
experience, this is one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about, including POP month and other things. You have extensive experience not only growing up, but certainly in your professional life. What are some of the things that you have seen within the prosthetic field in particular that has advanced in the time that you've been around it?
Oh, wow. I mean, if I even think about growing up, my grandfather had multiple legs kind of laying up against the wall. So if you think of just the old wooden sockets and wooden legs that were available, and then now they are all, 3D printed. They are microprocessor knees, microprocessor feet to allow patients to move better. And so, really, I've seen the gamut. And so, what I always like to tell even my students is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But also let the new technology shine, right? And so some people may come into your practice with still, an exoskeletal style or like a wooden leg, but we need to know and embrace the older styles as well. But they may come in with the newest technology, microprocessor knee, microprocessor ankle, 3D printed socket with, different liner systems and those kind of things. And we need to embrace that technology. So really understanding the gamut of what's coming out, but also embracing what we loved about the original prosthesis. And so for me, I kind of love that multi-generational style of our field because I've embraced the old and love and love and love the new. And so, really talking to your patients, really understanding what their needs are, really is where it starts. Because I could make you the best leg in the world, but if you're not going to wear it because it's too heavy or it's too soft or any of those things, it doesn't matter. So, my big goal is really to listen to the patient, find out what their needs are. So, if it's, hey, I want to be able to go to my grandson's football game, or I want to be able to go to my granddaughter's or my daughter's track meet. Let's think about all of the things they have to navigate from parking to, if you think of a stadium, you've got kind of the concrete and everything outside of the stadium. Then you have the turf or the kind of gravel going into it. You've got the soft turf of the track, and then the concrete or aluminum stairs that they have to get up. So all of those things that we have to navigate. And so really truly listening to your patient to find out what's best for them.
You know what's interesting about that as I listen to you, a lot of the patients, I would imagine, are maybe first time they've ever been
Yes.
thrust into the field of prosthetics. So is part of your, I'm going to put it this way and correct me, please, if I'm
Oh,
wrong, is
please.
part of the responsibility of the prosthetist to engage and have those conversations since the person may not know what they should be asking or may not know what the fit is like. Is that part of, you feel the conversation is important that you help start that conversation?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what we're educating our future prosthetist-orthotists at Kennesaw and as well as the other 14 schools that are teaching prosthetics and orthotics. It's really about having that initial evaluation and assessment of that patient, asking those questions that maybe even the patient hasn't even thought to think about, and then formulating that treatment plan around what's best for them. And so, yes, that is what your prosthetists and orthotists are doing as they're listening to you, really truly formulating that treatment plan and bringing together what's best for that patient.
If someone wants to get involved in the field, what are some of the early things that they should be looking at, or how do they get involved?
Oh gosh, there's so many ways. I really want students or anyone to kind of maybe even shadow at an O&P facility. And you can go to popmonth.org or whatispop.org, O-R-G, and look at some of the clinicians or students, maybe wherever you live, that will allow you to come in and shadow the location that they're working. So clinicians nationwide are allowing students, age doesn't matter, to really shadow in a O&P clinic to see what we do, meet a couple of patients, meet our office administrators, our technicians that are making the prostheses, and really find out more about what we do.
That is fantastic to be able to shadow. I would urge everyone to go. And what was the URL again? I want to make sure I
Oh,
PO.
absolutely. It is popmonth.org. And there's also whatispop.org.
We'll link to both of those in the description. But for those listening,
Excellent.
thank you for talking about that. Let's go to the other side, though. Now, I know there's people again, maybe early on in their own journey, and they're looking at the I have
Please.
found that in talking to people, they think, hey, I had my amputation on a Friday, I'll get fitted on a Saturday, and by Monday I'll have my prosthetic. What is that journey typically? I know it's different for everyone, but what is that typically like for the patient, that journey in itself?
Oh, wow. It really depends if you're in a city or a rural area, but let's say that that journey could also start pre amputation. Talking to a clinician to come in prior to, talking to a physical therapist or to a prosthetist prior to having your amputation so they can come to the hospital. And what I always did as when I was a still practicing certified prosthetist orthotist, when I found out someone was getting an amputation from their physician or from a family member that called my office, I'd say, well, do you mind if I come into the hospital after hours? I would love for you guys to feel a prosthesis, actually touch it. And so I would actually take arms, legs, different things to the hospital pre-amputation to talk to them and give them education on what is to come. To know that this is not the end of the world. Our goal is to get them back to doing whatever they were doing before their amputation. So while we're there, I give them a wrench and we take the leg apart and we put it back together. Or if it's a prosthesis, I let them touch the electrodes to open the hand and close the hand. Or if it is maybe not a myoelectric hand, if it's a hooker hand body powered, I take a hook and take a prosthetic hand with me so that they can see it's not as scary as some people may initially think that it is. We take a hook and we put it kind of around their finger and we just test it out. And they're like, oh, I can grab my granddaughter or my daughter's hand with this. And I say, yes, it's not, the temptation kind of goes away when you do that pre-amputation kind of education. But then sometimes it may happen that, you know what, I didn't get a chance due to other comorbidities or other things going on in my body. I didn't get a chance to talk to a prosthetist right after. And so maybe it's 6 months, 8 months afterward. And you're now like, okay, I'm feeling more happy in my body or more conscious of what everything that's going on. And now I'm ready to step in and use a prosthesis. And it's okay for you to meet a prosthetist orthotist at that time. Go into their clinic and say, hey, I've been sitting in this chair. I've kind of been using crutches for the last 6 months, and now I'm interested in a prosthesis. It really is about the education to the patient, to their family, to know what the next steps are. There is no limit, even if you got to talk to a prosthetist orthotist prior to your amputation or 2 years afterward. It's about creating that connection with them and seeing who's best for you so that you know for sure that you'll follow this journey with them throughout your entire life. And so that's one thing. My husband, I have several patients that used to say, are you married to me or married to your patient? Because you're with them all the time. You meet them prior to the amputation and sometimes you're there all the way till they move or get married or they pass. And so you really come part of the family and we're part of their healthcare team.
This episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast is brought to you by Discount Tire and America's Tire. And this one means a lot to me because I spent 30 years with that organization. I worked 5 years in the stores and then re-educated myself and worked in their corporate office for 25 years. And I ran vital parts of the organization like e-business, digital marketing, and even our customer experience initiatives. If you're part of the limb loss community and or part of the general disabled community, you know how difficult it can be to find meaningful employment. Discount Tire gave me a chance, so I can't thank them enough. They're sponsoring this episode and other episodes So the voices of the disabled community and the limb loss community are amplified through this podcast. But let me tell you some other things, because you're probably a consumer of tires. If you have a car, which most of you do, you're a consumer of tires. So let me tell you some of the great things that Discount Tire offers. They have free air checks, free tire safety inspections, free flat repairs. If your tire's repairable, they will repair it for free. You know why I know that? I've done thousands of those repairs myself. They will inspect your TPMS sensors. If you buy wiper blades from Discount Tire, they're going to install it for you, no charge. And of course, every tire purchase comes with free rotations, free balancing, and winter changeovers for the life of the tire. And if you're not certain about what kind of tire you need, jump online. Go to America's Tire or discounttire.com. They have Treadwell, which is the online buying guide where you can shop with confidence, and it provides transparent, unbiased tire data. And you will be able to make the best decision for you. You want to save a little time? Buy and book online. So Discount Tire and America's Tire, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast. And everyone that's listening, do me a favor. When you need tires, go to americastire.com or discounttire.com. I love the passion in your voice as you talk about these. You can just tell that you're very motivated and you help the limb loss community so much. And when I think about that, and this might be putting on the Wayback Machine for you,
please.
But do you have any success stories that really come to mind when you think about, hey, we put this prosthetic on and really changed the life of the person that it helped?
Oh gosh, I could probably think of 100 of them.
I love this.
The big, I guess, what really, one thing that always gives me the light bulb moment or those chills that you really love is that first 2 or 3 steps in their prosthesis, or the first time that a upper extremity patient is able to use the electrodes to open or close their hand and follow that. It is a joy that I don't think the patients realize, their family realize, or even me as their prosthetist-orthotist, how much that means. And so those are the moments that I take with me and I cherish forever, is those first, 5 steps down the parallel bars, or the 5 steps with nothing, because that's also the big, I've been holding on to this wheelchair, I've been holding on to this cane for so long, but the first time they kind of put it down, put that full weight and walk to give me a hug, I'll take it all day long. It's wonderful.
Oh, I love that. How about from like a student perspective, because you're now the program
Yes.
director? Do you have any success stories or great stories about people getting involved and actually going, wow, this is better than I thought, as an example?
Oh, absolutely. Even my very first cohort, right? Or, the first kind of students that I was able to be inspirational to, or have an effect on what their education was going forward. So the first time I became an educator at Kennesaw State University was the first class I taught was spinal orthotics. And what I love about this course is you would think in the back of your mind is like, oh, I got to take spinal. What does that mean? But this is where we're magicians, This is what I always say about the orthotic side of what we do. And is we're magicians. We're taking something that is crooked or doesn't work well and straightening it back out and using magic to do that. And so the first time the first time I was kind of teaching my students about scoliosis or even fractures, happened to be around the same time that they were, people were starting to put up Christmas lights. People were starting to do those things. And so we started talking about fractures and what happens when people fall, off ladders or have a fracture. And when we talked to them about the devices that these patients will be wearing, they were kind of like, well, I don't understand. How does it go around? How does it strap on? And then to pull out, 10 or 15 racks of different devices for them to trial on for the first time, to put on an Aspen collar or to put on a collar for the first time and really see that it does immobilize you or limit your motion. That's that light bulb moment when they finally get it. And it's nothing like it. It really just changes their minds about the field of orthotics and prosthetics. And it's really that light bulb moment, like, oh, I got that concept, right? Or the first time that you go through the gait cycle, how people walk. You talk about normal gait, you talk about how people walk normally. And then you're like, okay, well, now they have cerebral palsy or now they have spasticity and something else is affecting their gait. How do we get them back to that normal gait or close enough to that normal gait so nobody underneath their clothes knows that they have on a device? What do we do then? And so that's the fun thing, getting them to learn the concepts and understand the motions. And their first time, they're like, oh, I got it. Oh, it's nothing like it. Just the same light bulb moment or that same kind of passion you feel with the patient, you get it with the students as well.
And I would imagine the families too.
Oh,
Because families, the extended family, friends, they're going through something as well. That has got to give you, or people in your field, motivation, I would imagine.
oh, yes, absolutely. And so one of the things that I think about with family, because that was who I was with my dad as he was going through the amputation process, understanding he actually did an Elizerol frame, which is kind of the electrode frame that goes around the leg to build back bone prior to his amputation. So understanding like, okay, when we're talking with his orthopedic doctor, okay, do we save the new bone? Do we take off old bone? And really going through that before we came together as a family to decide that we're going to do this amputation. And it really is a family choice. I mean, if it is critical and we're talking about saving someone's life, then yes, amputation is, that kind of quick thing. But if it's a family decision to kind of come together and talk about, how do we get this patient's life better? And sometimes what gets patients back moving and back better is the amputation to say, hey, these are the new things that I can do with a prosthesis that I was not able to do prior to just trying to keep my residual limb.
Do you ever look back and since you went through that journey yourself with your father and play back in your mind some of the things that were, good or bad, or hey, I would have done, or because of advancements, maybe some things would be different nowadays. Is that something you think about?
I reflect on my time with my dad because one thing when he got his first prosthesis, I was like, oh, we're going to go play basketball. We're going to go do these things. And my dad, because at the time he had been in a wheelchair for probably a year or so, he used to keep his prosthesis outside of the bathroom. I was like, Daddy, no, let's go, let's do this. And he would roll to the bathroom, put his leg on, go into the bathroom, come back out, take his leg back off, and sit back down. And I asked him one day, and I said, Daddy, I thought we got this leg so that we could start doing. You said you were going to walk me to school. Like, what are we doing? And he said, Adrienne, I've been in a wheelchair for so long that you don't know how good it feels to stand up and pee like a man. And I was shocked. I was like, oh, but it's those little things that I at the time did not think of. But those are the stories that I tell my patients and say, like, hey, my dad was not gung ho about this prosthesis in the very beginning. But the first time he wasn't on a bedpan, he wasn't, a nurse wasn't changing him, he didn't have a catheter, and he could pop his prosthesis on, go to a urinal, stand up like a man, and come back. Those were the things that made him feel better. And those were the things that I passed on to my patients and I now pass on to my students to know you have to listen to the patient's story because it may be that he just wants to stand in front of a urinal and that's his goal for that month. And
It's
that's okay.
it's about independence. It sounds like too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now,
Yes.
I'd like to know, and I want to ask this obviously delicately. Are your father and your grandfather still with us?
Unfortunately, I just lost my father this October. So that was a little rough,
Sure.
but I had, let's see, was he 79 wonderful years. And so for me, 40 wonderful years with him. But when I tell you he was everything you think of in terms of father, he makes you mad, he makes you happy, he smiles, he hugs, all those things. And so I had the opportunity to have a wonderful life with him, with and without his prosthesis.
And the reason why I ask, especially I guess with your grandfather, what would they think about what you're doing now? And I guess your father's certainly seen a lot of what you're doing and the goodness you're doing. What do your grandfather in particular, what do you think he would think of what you're doing now to help people like him?
Oh, I know he is shining from above and making sure and kind of guiding me in those steps that I do when I'm with my patients and when I'm with my students. They both of them come up often in my class. So if you ever meet a student from Kennesaw State University during Pop Month right now, I promise you they will let you know a story about my grandfather or about my dad, because they were a part of my life. And they really influenced my passion for the field of prosthetics and orthotics. And so for me, I know that he is so proud of what I'm currently doing, what I'm doing for future students, and the future of the field. And so one great thing that my I was actually able to make a prosthesis for my father. And so I think that joy of say, oh no, I'm gonna walk on Adrian's leg next week, but right now I have on Tony's leg or whoever's, his prosthetist was at the time. And so those are the joys that I think about because that's how he kind of named his legs was based on the prosthetist that made it for him. And so that what that those are the things I think about. So currently right now, you can't see it in the background, but I have the Tony leg and the Adrian leg, right behind me. And I use those when I go out for Pop Month and go talk to K through 12 schools, when I go and talk to undergraduate students about the field of prosthetics and orthotics. I take Tony and I take Adrian with me, and I allow students to take a wrench and take the legs apart and put them back together and flip the socket backwards. And what do you think it would walk like if it was like this? Flip it forward and, take different feet and see how it feels when you navigate on different size feet. And so those are the things I use. And so they actually are with me all the time because I teach with them, I mentor with them, and I educate the world about the field.
It's so interesting because I showed you a couple of my old prosthetics, and they just
Yes.
mean something to us, whether it be a family member or the person wearing it. And you said something, your grandfather shining a light. As you look to the future and you continue to shine a light and help out people in the POP and get involved in that field of work, what do you see in the future for both yourself and people in the field?
I think it's just the amazing time to shine right now in the field of prosthetics and orthotics for not only our patients, but as well as our students, our current rising professionals and clinicians that are getting licensed and moving forward, board eligible and passing their exams. It is so bright and it comes together, it brings together healthcare, it brings together engineering and math. And so even if it is someone right now that is in K through 12, just kind of understanding how forces work, how things move, right? Or your undergraduate student who's trying to find out what major they really want to do. They like, okay, I kind of like healthcare, but I don't like blood. But I like engineering, but I want it to affect someone. I want to make change. That's where you come together and you have prosthetics and orthotics. And so I really think the future is bright going forward. I think that all of our patients with the students and the caliber of students coming in will be very happy with the prosthetists and orthotists that they will work with in the future, just because they really do understand the movement and the kind of customized care is what I'm going to call it. Customized care and the level of education so that the patients really feel like they are at the center. And I think if you talk to any clinician nationwide, they will let you know the patient's at the center of this. I'm just one piece to make sure that they can move better.
And as people want to learn more, I think listening to you and everything you've talked about, I think there's going to be people who want to get more involved. What were those two URLs again? I want to make sure we say those again.
Oh, absolutely. Popmonth.org and whatispop.org. Absolutely. Learn more about the field of prosthetics and orthotics and as well as pet orthics, as and also to learn and maybe go shadow at a clinic nationwide. So there's a place in the whatispop.org to put your zip code in and connect with a clinician that's close to you.
Can anyone do that? The reason why I ask is like, gosh, I'd almost like to do that to myself.
Oh, no, absolutely. It is
Wow.
welcome to all. You'll be surprised. If you look at one of the cohorts at Kennesaw State University, you will see that some of them are straight out of undergrad coming into the field, or sometimes it's a second or third career, and they were influenced maybe by a family member, or they learned about the field, by watching a TV show, and they want to get involved. So yes, the sky is the limit, and there is no age difference.
Well, I know we were introduced because of POP month, but as we talked about, it's POP year. But
That's
I'm
right.
I'm so glad for POP month because we were able to connect. And I'll tell you what, I knew going in after 5 minutes talking to you before the podcast started, and now 30 minutes in, I've learned so much, and I just can't thank you enough for taking the time today to be on the We're Not Stumped podcast. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. It really means a lot.
Oh, I am more than overjoyed. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast. I have an ask for everyone that got to this point of the podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. The reason is simple. These stories need to be shared. It would help it to get out there to the people that really need to hear these stories.